Martin McDonagh, how are you keeping today?
Very good, very good.
Congratulations on the film.
Thank
Absolutely loved it.
Oh, cheers.
Most important question first. You had Peter Dinklage on the set. How hard did you push him for Game of Thrones spoilers?
I have to admit, I never watched Game of Thrones.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm the only person in the world.
You're that one guy?
Yeah.
You're that one guy?
Yeah, I'm always busy making films. I'm not really, but yeah, no. I know, but I hear he's really fantastic in it.
It might be lazy because of Frances McDormand, but a lot of people are making Coen Brothers comparisons to your movie. As a writer and director, do you enjoy being compared to other directors, or would you be more like, no, I'd rather just be, McDonagh-esque?
Yeah, no, you prefer that, especially when you're starting out. Though it's kind of natural for that to happen. To almost like the advertising is. If it's like a Tarantino-like thing, you might get the Tarantino people into it. I don't like it or appreciate it really. I can see where it's coming from, and I can see where the Coen Brothers comparison comes from. And they've made so many good ones that you'd rather be compared to them than fill in the blank.
Sure.
But I see it as a film, completely in its own right. It feels like a sister piece to In Bruges to a degree. Because it's got a lot of comedy, but the sadness and the darker parts of the story are just as important. And Francis's character and performance is just as interesting and exciting as like Colin's and Brendan's in that movie.
For Francis was absolutely tremendous in this. Sam Rockwell's character, from the person who he was at the start to who he is at the end, even though he's still obviously the exact same person, and some stuff has changed, but I was trying to think afterwards, like there's so few actors who could do what he did in that film and still have the audience on his side.
Yeah, and have you believe in that change that takes place from a proper sort of prick who you can't justify any of his actions to someone who you feel for and care for even, hopefully at the end. And that's Sam. I mean, he's a beautiful actor, and I'm not sure if there's any other actor who could have made that change believable. But he's a lovely guy too, so that's always going to kind of shine through, I think, because he's played great psychopaths in past films. This isn't quite that, but it's someone quite dark and edgy.
Yeah.
But he's there's always an integrity and a decency to him. In all of his parts, really. So it was just tapping into that. But I didn't really have to give him, he's so good, you don't really have to direct him much at all.
This is your first film without any major Irish acting talent. Was that something you did on purpose to maybe distance a bit from, become a more international director?
No, not really. It was just an American story. So there was no real need or purpose to use anyone Irish in it. Most small towns in America, I don't know, you wouldn't really hear many Irish accents there, true. I think. If it was New York or wherever else, you would, of course. But here, I wanted to make sort of a proper American movie, not from an outsider's perspective, too. I wanted it to feel a little bit like, my favorite films from America of the 70s, say, to have that kind of scope and edge. But I'll get back to, I want to get Colin and Brendan back together as soon as possible. I'm sort of working on something towards that end.
We'll get back to that in just a sec, but...
or will we? No, maybe I'll just...
Well, hopefully. But you're well known for your very precise screenplays, like having the dialogue on point. And you mentioned there about, the referencing some of your favourite films from the 70s. Do you have a favourite screenplay that you've read that you're like, that is the best piece of writing I've ever seen?
Well, I never read screenplays, but in terms of the films I've seen with them, I guess I'd go back to something like Taxi Driver. I did read Taxi Driver, and that's an amazing piece of work. Pulp Fiction is on the page is fantastic too. But then, Badlands, these are all, mostly American films. But I don't read. I would read a play, but I'd always want to see the film of a screenplay rather than read it.
Sure. We're coming up to the 10-year anniversary of In Bruges.
Jesus.
Did you realise that?
Yeah, doesn't time fly?
And it's still like one of Ireland's favourite films. Like anytime I'm talking about going to speak Colin or director yourself, it's always asking about In Bruges,
Yeah, I love that too.
Do you have a favourite memory of making that film now, like 10 years on?
It was all of it, really, but it was all sort of Colin and Brendan based, because it was my first proper film, and they completely kind of helped me through it and guided me. I mean, I kind of knew what it was, the tone of it and the look of it, but it's kind of scary to jump in with like big proper actors and dealing with big proper film companies too. So they kind of helped guide me through that. But it was just the joy of, it was always fun coming to work with them. And probably the most fun part was the rehearsals we did before the shooting started. We did like 3 weeks, just Colin, Brendan and me sitting in a room, cups of tea, reading the script, and just discovering more and more about the characters and how much they were almost like an old married couple. That's what we kind of found when we were reading it. And then we were in Bruges then, so we just went out and would sit in all of the places that the film would then shoot in, and no one bothered them that they were famous, so we could just sit on a bench. And literally that scene where they sit on the bench and talk to each other about the karate, the lollipop man, and they just sat down there and they started doing it because we'd just been doing it in the rehearsal room, and I just kind of thought, this is good, this is kind of nice, and it's kind of easy. And I thought making a film would be always stressful and a pain in the ass, but when it's just you and the actors, there's something joyful about that, and that's my biggest memory of that film, I think.
Fantastic. Martin, thank you so much.
Cheers. Sorry I went on for ages.
We've had 2 official complaints about those billboards.
From who?
There's a lady with a funny eye.
A lady with a funny fucking eye?
And a fat dentist.
There's a lot of good friends of Willoughby in this town, Miss A. Ow! Ah! You didn't happen to drill a little hole in the dentist today, did you?
Of course not.
Huh?
I said, of course not.